Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty of TEISS. The Linear Data Entry screen, also known as Input View. The item here that you can click on to access the Linear Data Entry screen is called Input. You can click on that, or as we just saw, you can click on an item in your map and then right-click and select Edit. So I'm going to do that, but first of all, you can see that plus sign is there, so I need to change it to the selection cursor. And then I'm going to select this, and then it lets me choose from what I might be clicking on. I'm going to say emission release point. Now it's surrounded with the gray box, so I know that it's selected. And now if I right click and say edit, that opens up the linear data entry screen or input view just the same way this button up here opens it up. I'm going to open it up this way by clicking that, because that way I know what I am selecting. Here you can see the linear data entry screen, which is really the nuts and bolts of your whole project. We clicked this input icon and it opens up the linear data entry screen. That gives us, at the top, we've got point sources here. If you want to look at non-point sources, you would click on that, on-road sources, etc. We're going to take a closer look at point sources, and you can see that first we have the point locations, and that's what's shown in the right-hand panel, and you know that because the point locations icon is surrounded in a blue box. Then within one of these, so let's just take a look at Pima County. If you double click on it, it gives you the information about that particular thing you're looking at, which is just Pima County in this case. Now that we know we've got Pima County selected because it's blue, we can go down to facilities, and these are all the facilities in Pima County, and you can see that we've got up here a breadcrumbs panel that's starting to build as we go down here and we drill further and further down into the detail about this particular source that we want to look at. The next drilling down step is the release points, because you may have multiple release points, as we do for this cement plant here. So you can see the usefulness of this because it's easy to get lost. So we're within the point location. Overall is the county, and then this is the facility, and then we've got multiple release points. Look at all these release points. Plant-wide fugitive, so you know that's probably always going to be one of the release points. Then are there multiple emission units? Yes, there are. This is a particularly large plant, so now we're looking at the fugitive release point. I click down to emission unit, and you can see that it's still saying, okay, these are all the things that are going on within this particular facility. And you can see the stuff that's grayed out doesn't have any information. So go down to processes, and you can see these are multiple processes. So here is where we can really get into the nitty-gritty, the source classification codes for what is happening at this place. And then because we know that we've imported the NEI data, we actually have actual emissions. And now you can see the benefit of this breadcrumbs panel, because you know that you're within this county, this facility, this emission unit, this process, so again this SEC code, and the reporting period is annual, and then ta-da, here are the actual emissions. And you can pull this over in these bars and you can see what is emitted, and you can see in the breadcrumbs panel by what. So these are the emissions from this particular source, and then particular emission unit, process, and annual reporting period. Another cool thing about the breadcrumbs panel is that you can use it to navigate your TEISS project. So let's just say we're looking at this one particular Rialito cement plant, and we want to look at the different processes that are going on at this plant, right? The different SEC codes. We can navigate through the different processes either by using this over here, or scroll through these fast forward and fast rewind buttons in the breadcrumbs panel. So you can see that there's one process that has the SEC code. That's process number 4. Let's go back and look at the different processes and which ones emits more pollutant. You can do that by going through the different processes for this particular emission unit. You can also do the same thing for facilities. So for example, we want to stay within Pima County, but we want to look at the different facilities. Well, you could see that we're on number 26 of 38 facilities, so you can go through and look at the different facilities while leaving this actual emissions here selected so that you see the actual emissions here, and you could go through and say, wow, these are the different pollutants emitted by these 38 different facilities that are in Pima County in my TEISS project. Another thing that you can do with the breadcrumbs panel is you can go through the different facilities this way in the drop-down box, which sometimes is a little easier to see. So for example, Southwest Fiberglass, and then you can see that they have a lot of styrene that they emit, but they only have one process and one emission unit, so probably a relatively small plant that emits a lot of styrene. Let's just say we want to add a non-point source. So down here you click on whatever source category you want to either edit or add or view, and you can see that what you've got selected here appears just right on top of these items here in this left-hand navigation tree. And let's say we wanted to add a source, and then it opens up the panel for adding information about that source. Let's just say that I want to add a non-point source in Maricopa County. So now I want to take this into my project, so I'm going to click OK. Now I have to say what it is. So I'm going to go down to non-point processes, and I have to add a process. So that opens up a panel for adding the information about what's going on at this non-point process.